Have you ever faced tremendous challenges and adversities, only to wish you could emerge stronger and wiser on the other side? And what if you could access an ancient source of wisdom to guide you through the trials and tribulations of life today? Let's explore the teachings of a great Roman emperor and philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, and discover how his timeless wisdom can help us build resilience and inner strength against our own negative thoughts. Marcus Aurelius, a renowned philosopher and Roman emperor, is often remembered for the numerous struggles he encountered, from political upheavals to personal losses. In the midst of these challenges, he wrote his deeply introspective and insightful book, Meditations, as a means of self-improvement and reflection. This iconic work has inspired countless individuals over the centuries, providing guidance on how to live a virtuous and fulfilling life. In today's fast-paced and often uncertain world, the weight of our own mind can feel like a constant struggle. We are constantly bombarded by negative thoughts that whisper doubts, fears, and criticisms. What if we could learn to navigate these thoughts with grace and wisdom, transforming this inner adversity into an opportunity for growth and self-discovery? This is where the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius come into play. He believed that by focusing on the things we can control, our thoughts, emotions, and actions, we can overcome external circumstances and maintain a sense of balance and serenity. In essence, Stoicism teaches us to be the architects of our own well-being, regardless of the challenges we face. In this video, we will delve into 7 of his most transformative principles that will help us develop this resilience and inner strength. These lessons not only offer practical advice for dealing with difficult thoughts, but will also inspire us to cultivate a more resilient mindset in our daily lives. Lesson 1. Understand the root, not the symptom. The first principle is a profound shift in strategy. You must understand the root of your negative thoughts, not merely the symptoms. Many of us spend our lives contending with negative thoughts as they arise. A thought of inadequacy appears, and we attempt to counter it with a forced affirmation. A fear of failure emerges, and we meet it with frantic optimism. However, the negativity often returns, as we have only addressed the surface. We exhaust ourselves fighting individual thoughts, never realizing we are only trimming the leaves of a much deeper issue. Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics understood that negative thoughts are not random events. They are the result of our underlying beliefs that are often invisible to us. To truly free yourself, you must be willing to examine your own mind. The Stoic solution is to make the unconscious conscious, because a belief that is examined loses its absolute power over you. For your first exercise, consider keeping a thought journal for 1 week. When a powerful negative feeling arises, trace it backward. Ask yourself with genuine curiosity, where did this come from? What is the deeper belief that is fueling this specific thought? For instance, if you feel anxiety about a particular task, the thought might be, "I will fail." Dig deeper. Why do you believe that? Perhaps the root is a core assumption that you are not capable. Once you identify that root belief, you can finally question it. By shifting your focus from the fleeting thought to the foundational belief, you stop fighting endless battles and begin to win the war for your mind. Lesson 2. Distinguish between truth and assumption. The second principle provides a shield against mental turmoil. Learn to distinguish between objective fact and your subjective interpretation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Most of our suffering comes not from reality itself, but from the stories we tell ourselves about reality. Our minds are relentless storytelling machines, crafting narratives from the smallest pieces of information. For example, an email to your superior goes unanswered for several hours. That is the fact. Yet, the mind begins to create a story. My boss is displeased. I have made a mistake. A neutral event spirals into a catastrophic assumption that triggers real anxiety. The Stoics teach us to pause and apply logic. A disciplined mind does not allow any thought to take root without first examining it. This brings us to a practical 3-step test for any negative thought. The next time you feel distressed, ask, is this objectively true, or is it an assumption? Be honest with yourself. What is the bare fact, stripped of interpretation? The fact is, a message has not been returned. The assumption is that it is due to anger. What is the evidence for and against this assumption? Act as a detective. Does your boss have a history of being busy? More often than not, you will find the evidence for your catastrophic thought is flimsy. What would I tell a friend in this situation? We are often kinder and more rational with others. You would likely advise your friend to consider other possibilities and not to jump to conclusions. Offer yourself that same wisdom. Practicing this logical examination breaks the automatic cycle of negative assumptions. You begin to see your thoughts not as absolute truths, but as hypotheses to be tested. Lesson 3. Reframe through rational replacement. The third lesson is an act of mental transformation. You must learn to replace destructive thoughts with rational, constructive alternatives. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It is about transformation. You cannot simply create a void in your mind by trying not to think a negative thought. You must consciously replace the negative with something better. This is not about blind positivity, but about rational replacement. It is about finding a perspective that is not only more positive, but also more true and useful. Instead of the thought, I will fail, a rational replacement is, I have prepared for this. I will apply myself fully. If I make mistakes, they will be opportunities to learn. This acknowledges possibility, but reframes it as a non-catastrophic event, shifting the focus to your effort. Here is your third exercise. Identify 3 of your most common negative thoughts. For each one, write down a rational, empowering alternative. Negative thought. I am too overwhelmed by all this stress. Rational replacement. This is a challenging moment, but I have handled challenges before. I will break this down into smaller steps and focus on one thing at a time. Negative thought. I always procrastinate. I am lazy. Rational replacement. I am feeling resistance to this task. I will commit to working on it for just 15 minutes. Action, not shame, is the solution. For the next 2 weeks, your task is to practice this exchange. The moment you catch the old thought arising, consciously pause and recite its rational counterpart. With repetition, you are teaching your brain a new default response, one that leads not to despair, but to resilience. Lesson 4. Cultivate inner peace through selective attention. The fourth principle is about defending your inner world. You must cultivate inner peace by becoming selective with your attention. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." We live in an age of constant invasion. Social media, news headlines, and the expectations of others are all trying to influence your thoughts and emotions. If you leave your mind open to all inputs, you allow the chaos of the world to become the chaos of your inner life. A resilient mind is not one that is ignorant, but one that is discerning. It consciously filters the information it allows to enter. The feeling of inadequacy from social media or the anxiety from sensationalized news is a direct result of the inputs you allow. Building inner peace requires you to become a vigilant guard of your own consciousness. This brings us to our fourth exercise. Conduct a one-week information audit. Pay close attention to your external inputs. Which accounts, news sources, or conversations leave you feeling drained and negative? Be honest in your assessment. This is about protecting your peace of mind. Once you have identified these sources, you must act. Unfollow the accounts. Limit your exposure. Politely distance yourself from conversations that devolve into complaint. This is about curating an environment that strengthens, rather than weakens, your mind. Furthermore, practice active gatekeeping with your own thoughts. When a thought appears, pause and ask, is this helpful? Is this true? Is this mine? Or is it an echo of something I heard? By performing this act of questioning, you become the sovereign of your own mind. You decide what is allowed to take root. Lesson 5. Accept what you cannot control. The fifth principle is perhaps the most foundational tenet of Stoicism. You must learn to accept what you cannot control. The philosopher Epictetus stated it simply, some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. Within our control are our judgments, our intentions, and our actions. Outside of our control is almost everything else. Other people's opinions, the outcome of our efforts, and external events. The vast majority of our anxiety arises from a tragic mistake. We tie our happiness to things we cannot control. The goal of this practice is to redirect your energy. Imagine your mental energy is a finite resource. Why waste it on things that are immune to your influence? The Stoic insight is to pour every ounce of that energy into the domain where you have 100% control. Your own choices and responses. This leads to a profoundly practical exercise. Create 2 columns. On a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left, write down what is currently causing you stress. On the right, for each item, write down the only aspects of that situation that you can actually control. Left column, out of my control. Potential company layoffs. Right column, in my control. Updating my resume. Networking. Practicing interview skills. My attitude at work each day. Left column, out of my control. A friend's angry reaction. Right column, in my control. Whether I apologize sincerely. How I choose to communicate going forward. My commitment to being a better friend. This exercise visually separates the noise from the signal. It shows you where your power truly lies. Your task is to consciously let go of the left column and focus your entire attention on the right. This isn't giving up. It is the strategic redirection of your power to where it can make a real difference. Lesson 6. Face pain with clarity, not avoidance. The sixth principle requires courage. You must face your pain with clarity rather than avoiding it. We are masters of avoidance. When faced with a painful emotion, our immediate impulse is to run. We distract or numb ourselves. But the Stoics understood a crucial truth. Pain that is ignored does not disappear. It festers and can leak out as chronic anxiety or irrational anger. The fundamental question is not if we will experience pain, but what we will do with it. The Stoic approach is to turn towards the pain, to engage with it directly, with curiosity and without judgment. The goal is not to wallow, but to understand it, and in doing so, to rob it of its shadowy power. To suffer less, we must be willing to live with our pain, without the exhausting struggle against it. This brings us to a therapeutic exercise. Write about your pain without censorship. Identify one fear, regret, or source of pain you have been avoiding. Set aside 15 minutes where you will not be interrupted. During this time, your only task is to write about that pain. Do not worry about grammar or making sense. The act of writing itself is what matters. It takes the abstract chaos of an emotion inside your head and transforms it into concrete words outside of you. This act creates distance. You are no longer drowning in the feeling. You are observing it. This practice does not magically erase the pain, but it changes your relationship to it. It transforms it from a terrifying monster into something you can look at, learn from, and carry as a source of strength. Lesson 7. Observe your thoughts. Don't absorb them. We have arrived at the final and perhaps most transformative principle. You must learn to observe your thoughts rather than be absorbed by them. For many of us, the space between a thought and our reaction is almost non-existent. The thought, "I am anxious," arises, and we become anxiety. We confuse ourselves with our thoughts. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to cultivate the identity of the observer, the calm, stable consciousness that witnesses the stream of thoughts passing through it. You are not the clouds, you are the sky. When you no longer confuse your thoughts for yourself, the entire dynamic shifts. You can notice a thought of anger without becoming an angry person. You can acknowledge a wave of sadness without being swept away by it. This is not about suppressing thoughts, but about seeing them for what they are: transient mental events. Our final exercise is designed to cultivate this inner observer. Practice mindfulness and the art of reframing. For 10 minutes each day, sit quietly and simply observe your mind. When thoughts arise, your task is not to engage with them or judge them, but simply to notice them. Imagine you are sitting by the side of a river, watching leaves float by. Each leaf is a thought. You just watch it come into view and then float away. The second part is a subtle but profound shift in language. Throughout your day, whenever you catch yourself identifying with a negative thought, consciously reframe it. Instead of thinking, "I am anxious," reframe it as, "I am observing the feeling of anxiety within me." Instead of "I am a failure," reframe it as, "I am noticing the thought that I am a failure." This small change in wording creates immediate psychological distance. It reminds you that you are the container, not the contents. This is a radical reassertion of your true identity as the silent, steady awareness behind the noise. Conclusion. As we conclude our journey through these 7 principles, let us briefly revisit them. 1. Understand the root, not the symptom. 2. Distinguish between truth and assumption. 3. Reframe through rational replacement. 4. Cultivate inner peace through selective attention. 5. Accept what you cannot control. 6. Face your pain with clarity. 7. Observe your thoughts. Don't absorb them. These principles are not a quick fix. They are a lifelong journey, requiring time, practice, and commitment, just as they were for Marcus Aurelius himself. His meditations were a personal practice, reminders to keep his mind steady while an empire churned around him. The ultimate message of this ancient wisdom is one of profound empowerment. You are not a helpless victim of your thoughts. You have the power to question them, reframe them, and choose your responses. Your mind does not have to be a prison. it can be a source of profound strength and tranquility. If these lessons resonated with you, I encourage you to reflect on them and consider how to apply them in your own journey of self-discovery. The most powerful changes begin with a single step. In the comments below, share with us, which of these 7 principles will you begin to practice today? Your journey is an inspiration to others. And if you've made it this far, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel to continue exploring timeless wisdom for mastering your mind. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.